At 83, I finally understood something that took me a lifetime to see. I was never unhappy because my life was hard. I was unhappy because my life was never truly mine. That realization didn't arrive like a revelation. There was no dramatic moment, no sudden clarity. It came quietly, the way truth often does, when there's finally enough silence for it to be heard. Let me take you back. I'm sitting alone in my living room, early morning light leaking through thin curtains. The house is still, but not peacefully still. It's the kind of quiet that presses against your ears, the kind that reminds you how much noise used to live here. Children's voices, footsteps, doors opening and closing, life happening. Now there is only the ticking of the clock. When you're young, clocks disappear into the background. When you're old, they announce themselves. My hands tremble slightly as I pour tea into a chipped cup I've owned for decades. Not from fear, not from illness, from memory. My body remembers things my mind tried to forget. People always said I lived a good life, a stable job, a respectable marriage, children who grew up and moved out, a house that stayed standing, a reputation that stayed intact. Everything a person is supposed to want. And yet, happiness always felt like something happening to someone else. Something I witnessed, admired, even applauded, but never fully touched. For decades, I assumed the problem was me. I told myself I was tired, or ungrateful, or simply asking too much from life. I convinced myself happiness was scheduled for later, after the next promotion, after the kids were grown, after retirement. I kept postponing it like an envelope I didn't want to open, afraid of what might be inside. At 83, there is no later left. When I was young, I believed happiness was something you earned by doing everything right. I watched carefully, listened closely. I learned early which behaviors were rewarded and which were quietly punished. I became very good at reading rooms, sensing expectations, adjusting myself accordingly. I chose safety over desire, approval over truth, stability over curiosity. I became dependable, responsible, predictable. I became someone people trusted, and slowly, without realizing it, I became someone I barely knew. I learned early that being liked felt safer than being honest. Honesty caused friction, disappointment, questions I didn't know how to answer. So I avoided it. I built my life around expectations, my parents, my spouses, my employers, societies. Every major decision I made passed through one question first. Will this disappoint someone? Rarely, almost never, did I ask, does this make me feel alive? I married someone who looked perfect on paper. We were compatible in all the practical ways. We were polite, efficient, organized. We raised children together, shared responsibilities, divided tasks. But we never truly met each other. Conversations stayed on the surface, bills, schedules, plans. Deep feelings were treated like inconveniences. Vulnerability felt unnecessary, even dangerous. We didn't fight much. We also didn't connect much. At night, lying beside another human being, I felt strangely alone. Not dramatically lonely, quietly lonely. The kind that doesn't scream, but slowly drains the color from everything. The kind you can live with until you realize you've been living inside it. I told myself this was normal. This was adulthood. This was maturity. Years passed that way, then decades. I worked hard. People respected me. Some even envied me. I wore success like armor, hoping it would protect me from the emptiness I couldn't name. I stayed busy because stillness scared me. Stillness asks questions. When retirement finally came, everyone congratulated me. "Now you can finally enjoy life," they said. I smiled and thanked them. But when the noise stopped, when the meetings ended, the emails ceased, the roles dissolved, I was left alone with myself. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't know who I was without roles. Without my job, without being useful, without being needed, I felt invisible. I had spent so long performing a version of myself that I forgot the original. Days blended together. Mornings arrived without urgency. Afternoons stretched endlessly. I filled time with errands I didn't need to run, conversations that said nothing, television that kept me company without demanding presence. One evening, while sorting through old drawers, I found a notebook from my early 20s. I barely recognized the handwriting, bold, uneven, hopeful. The pages were filled with questions, dreams, possibilities. "I want a life that feels real," one line read. I laughed out loud, not because it was funny, because it hurt. Somewhere along the way, I stopped choosing and started complying. That night, something cracked open inside me. I finally understood why happiness always felt temporary, borrowed, fragile. It wasn't because I lacked gratitude. It was because I lacked truth. Happiness cannot survive where honesty is absent. I had spent my life avoiding discomfort, and in doing so, I avoided myself. I thought peace meant keeping everything calm. I didn't realize peace sometimes requires disruption, that growth often arrives disguised as inconvenience. At 83, I understood this painful truth. You can do everything right and still betray your own soul. The realization didn't come with fireworks. It came quietly, like grief. Grief for the conversations I never had, the risks I never took, the versions of myself I silenced because they were inconvenient, impractical, or selfish. I cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just tears sliding down an old face that had learned how to endure, but never how to choose. And yet, something else followed. Relief. Because understanding is a form of freedom, even when it arrives late. I started telling the truth in small ways, saying no without explaining, admitting when I didn't care, saying what I felt instead of what was expected. There was no audience left to impress anyway. And for the first time, I felt light. Not happy in the loud, celebratory sense, but peaceful, grounded, real. If you are younger than me, and you are, I want you to hear this clearly. Happiness is not a reward for obedience. It is a byproduct of alignment. Don't wait until silence forces you to listen. Don't confuse comfort with fulfillment. Don't postpone yourself. At 83, I finally understood why I was never happy. And if this story reached you in time, maybe you won't have to wait as long as I did. If something in this story stayed with you, I'd like to hear from you in the comments. Maybe there's a truth you've been postponing. Or maybe you're still early enough to choose differently. You can simply write this: what did this make me feel? Liking this video helps this story reach someone else who might need to hear it today. And if stories like this speak to you, consider subscribing. There's no loud motivation here, just lived experience, quiet truths, and lessons that sometimes arrive late, but still matter. Thank you for listening. And don't wait too long to be honest with yourself.